exciting announcement. We now have Brockton Bay Book Club merch. We've got our Brockton Bay Book Club t-shirt, as well as the Brockton Bay's sweatshirt. They look sweet. Hannah designed them, and they're amazing. So if you're interested in that, link will be in the description. And shout out to Hannah for all the sweet designs. Thanks so much for your guys' support, and go check it out. Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae, also known as Wildbow. You can read Worm in its original format by visiting parahumans.wordpress.com or donate to Wildbow's Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. This story isn't intended for young or sensitive readers. Readers who are on the lookout for trigger warnings are advised to give Worm a pass. For a complete list, check the description for all of Worm's trigger warnings.
Take that, you worms.
Hey.
We're back for the last time revisiting Worm.
Let's go.
Let's go. Woo. We are here for the final episode of Dissecting Worm, at least in terms of Worm proper, the story. We're going to look back over our full 5-season show that we have constructed or outlined or framed or whiteboarded or conceptualized. It's about as far as we've come. I'm going to look over each season, review some of the major changes we've made, major things we've left the same, and talk about it with our whole crew here. We got the whole gang. We got Nick and Hannah joining from the book club. You can all see our lovely faces for this one.
Weird, huh? Weird. Like, who
It
are
is a
these
bit weird.
people?
Let's get some initial thoughts, mostly from Allan and Michael, who wants to chime in as well, I'm sure. We did it. We did all 30 arcs and the epilogues. We, beginning to end, put it all together, outlined it all. How do you think we did?
How do we think we did? I think
Good
we
question.
did well. Yeah.
I think in retrospect, I think we batted probably 75-25.
For a
was
first
good.
draft, it was good.
Yeah.
For
I
a
think,
first
I
draft.
think we covered most of our discrepancies in the next season, or at least the next 2 seasons going back over this. There's a lot of okay, back up. We need to fix this. And it smooths a lot of stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, having read the series already and getting to kind of go back through it and reread it and put it together, it was interesting how much I remembered that I definitely wanted to keep unchanged, and then how much that I had kind of forgotten about, so that as we made the little tweaks and changes and then read more, it was like, well, okay, we got to think about that. Got to go back and work that again.
Exactly.
There's a lot of little things like that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. Doing little fun projects like this is such a great way of gaining respect for professional scriptwriters and adapt. Obviously, trying to pull 5 seasons out of this would be a daunting task for anybody. And but the amount of work that you have to put into this, we met once every 2 weeks to cover a few chapters at a time, and it was exhausting. And like to think like this, what we did over the course of the last year-ish is like what a writing team would have knocked out in a day, you know? Like first day, get in the room,
Yeah.
here's the whiteboard, let's outline it. You know, maybe a week if we're being generous. It's ridiculous to me what the professionals are capable of.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, I'm even impressed with you guys for having just stuck with this, gone through everything, and really trying to think through everything. I've always enjoyed our recap episodes. I think they're fun. So props
I
to
enjoy
you
them
guys
as
too.
long as I don't get mad. If you guys make me mad, then I'm like, I'm not enjoying this anymore. But yeah, no, I agree with Nick. I agree with Nick. You guys have really done really well. It's exciting to think about this becoming something. Like, I know that this is just a fun little passion project, but like, we love this book, and it would be lovely to see it on the screen one day. That would be
So
really
cool.
fun.
Mhm,
Yeah.
Be cool.
for sure.
Still waiting. Holding out hope. Wild Bow.
Wild Bow.
Putting our faith in you.
Never know.
Yeah.
But until then, we'll entertain this fun little what if.
Mhm.
So let's want to
sure.
dive in?
Yeah.
Allie, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So for season 1, major POV would be Taylor and a lot of our cold open and closer interludes. The arc would focus on becoming the villain. So a couple major points that we changed. Taylor and Danny talk more. I think we mirror what is going on in her villain life with what's going on at home for a lot of this arc. Pigott is shown to have a deputy director, Thomas Calvert, right off the bat. Lisa and Faultline fight Bakata together, while the other teams fight Oni, Lee, and Long. So a separate fight that happens at the same time, but we have Faultline and Lisa. And that was an idea brought to us from some Redditors. I think it's a really fun one because we wanted to have that Bakata fight, but
Yeah.
there wasn't really a good place for it. In this
Mm.
case, you'd have like Lisa arming a bomb while having playful banter with her nemesis Faultline. Lisa taking credit for leaking the information about Empire 88 and sort of just passively being the mastermind behind a lot of this. Lung taking the lead on the Leviathan fight as an alternate point of view. And not just Taylor the entire time. We get a little bit of background on him. Lisa recruiting Taylor at the very end, only to reveal finally who their employer, the secret employer, was. And then Lisa during the season would also be spouting off percentages of how things would work. And Dinah would only be shown to be kidnapped by the travelers during the bank heist scene, as a closer or something like that.
Okay.
And never explained why we cut to that, like why she got kidnapped. You'd have stuff in the background, maybe like on newspapers, but after that, Lisa would start talking, in percentages of things working.
Cool. So those are like all the big changes you guys made,
Those are all
right?
the big changes.
Those are
All
the big changes.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
I remember
think-
you guys.
Go ahead,
I'm
Hannah.
so sorry, Nick. No, please
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, you first.
I was just gonna say, I think initially you guys had like taken out the Bagada fight altogether, and I
We
remember
had.
being very upset
memory.
about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember that being my first big
a lot of
like,
people were.
excuse me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I loved that fight. That fight's great. So I didn't remember you guys. I mean, if you did, as we know, Hannah has terrible memory. But like, I didn't remember you guys having put that back in with.
There will be a
Faultline's
decent amount of
crew.
stuff that you haven't heard before because we've been changing as we go.
Excellent.
As we
I
play.
love
Okay,
that.
cool.
That's very
Cool.
fun. Okay, cool. I'm glad you kept that in and just kind of changed the perspective a little bit because
Yeah.
I love the Tattletale fault line thing. I think that's very funny, and I feel like the book could harp on it a little bit more. So the idea of
Mm.
having that, I'm very content with. I like
I
it a lot.
think
Yeah.
just off the top of my head, this sounds like a Sleepy Stapler thing. So I'm going to shout out to Reddit user Sleepy Stapler because
Probably,
that's
yeah.
not directly them. They also had a bunch of really good insights into extra stuff, alternate takes. Big shout out to them.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
for sure. That's cool.
Uh,
The more I've thought about it too, the more I think I do like waiting for Taylor to be officially recruited at the end after the Leviathan fight. I think that narratively having that having that be kind of her big motivation of like, look, I'm so close to finding out who employs the Undersiders. Just give me a chance, Arms Master. I can be a good guy. I swear I'm doing the right thing.
Mhm.
To that being like a question of, is she genuinely joining them or is she still faking it? I think that's kind of a cool way to leave that lingering at the end of a season. And then meeting Coyle at the end too would be good as a good, like, oh, okay, so this is the boss. But you don't get to really meet him until season 2, which I think is a nice
Fun.
change.
yeah.
That's the idea.
A retroactive thought on that is at the end, we talked about it's literally like the last scene, they're meeting in the grave or in the memorial. She's like, so, you in? And Taylor's like, I don't know. And then she, cuts to her walking in the distance. Lisa turns around, whips out the cell phone and just goes, she's in. And then person hangs up at a desk in a dark layer and
Mhm.
it's Coyle, steepled fingers behind the desk, pulls out, cut, the end.
Cool. I like it.
What if we didn't do Coyle? What if we just straight up did Thomas Calvert?
And just made the reveal at the end of the season.
Because here's why.
Well, we have met Coyle is the question.
We meet him briefly at the gathering of the villains.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Villain
it'll
I-
feel like Lisa works for the good guys.
So therein lies why you would do it. That Lisa, who we've assumed is masterminding a lot of this, turns out she's working for somebody. She's working for the PRT. Well, this is all speculation because you don't know what's going on.
Right.
You
You would assume
she's working
Yeah.
for the PRT guy, but that's not the head person. Like that's the second in command.
Mm.
So like, is it you clearly know that he's maybe double dirty, which means also is she playing double dirty? Is this like a thing
It
where
does
she's
complicate things.
because Taylor, they've also given Taylor a lot of shit for being a snitch
Yeah.
at the,
I think it
And-
would depend on how you portray Coyle and Calvert in season 2. So maybe
Yeah.
you should give us the recap for season 2 and then I'll tell you what I think.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
but
Yeah, I think-
keep that in mind that if we did do that,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
big point would
All
be to we've given Taylor a lot of contention, and that was a big thing. Is we've also pushed the Dinah stuff back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
from
though
season 1.
I think my issue with that in one regard is simply that with this change, one of Taylor's big things has been she still wants to be a good guy, and the assumption is that the PRT are the good guys. So
Yeah.
obviously this would throw some doubt on that. But I wonder if, because then the revelation would be Thomas Calvert is Coyle, not Coyle is Thomas Calvert.
Yeah.
So I almost wonder though if that would lessen the impact of that revelation. I think that would be kind of the tricky thing to balance. Because then when you find out that Coyle's leading things, it's like, okay, another villain's in charge, which is cool. But then you find out he's part of the PRT. He's been manipulating the PRT the whole time, and it makes you realize, oh, maybe the good guys aren't good guys after all. It's kind of
Right.
another hit on that theme, which I think Arms Master does a good job of too, just because he's an asshole. But I think having that revelation as well and flipping it, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it would have to take a bigger rewrite for season 2, I guess, to flip it that way.
Yeah. I think
Only because
honestly don't
they
think
meet
there
with
needs to
Coyle
be-
so many times. And so it would be
Yeah.
like switching the meeting to being with Thomas Calvert, but then it adds in this I don't know.
Like-
I feel
Yeah.
like
Like if the
yeah.
audience already
Yeah.
knows something, like it seems weird to like have us know for so long and Taylor not know that Coyle is Calvert. It's like we know going into season 2, like, oh, Coyle and Calvert are the same person. And Taylor's interacting with them with Coyle, and it's like we're getting all this cool stuff. It's like this feels weird that I don't know. I like the
I think
idea.
that just builds tension if you were going to do it. It's the
Maybe.
difference between, oh, this is a very normal scene. We'll do a monster scene. You have a story because where there is a character and ultimately they're revealed to be a serial killer at the end when they start killing people.
Hmm.
Or you reveal that they are a serial killer immediately, and every scene with them has the possibility for them to kill your main character. Where like the tension is there. Are they, as the main character discovers that they don't let that other person know, like you build the tension through you knowing and feeling the danger for your character, even though they might not realize that they're in danger. I think the potential there is that you raise the tension on your viewing end of like every time you see Thomas Calvert, he's innocuous, but your eyes are like glued on him in a scene because you're like, what is he up to? Like, because you don't know what he's up to. Even though you know he's up to something and it feels sinister because, this how we portrayed him. Like you don't know. And also I think you could, major rewrites, I think you could really bring into question whether or not written well, whether or not Taylor is still in on a sting operation with the PRT with Lisa. Like the idea that like, oh, they're like Lisa was also in on the whole thing. Like they took down Empire 88. That wasn't a random thing. That was the PRT playing dirty through villains.
I feel like the only issue is I foresee this unnecessarily complicating things.
Yep, I was saying the same thing.
And I think I think that's the risk you want to run. I think the idea is interesting. I think the risk you run is that, and again, I know you've
already
rewritten.
Complicated.
Yeah, it's already a bit complicated,
especially in a
right?
script where we tried to simplify everything.
Yeah.
I feel like this is adding an unnecessary layer of complication, especially given the fact that. Mostly just especially given the fact that they meet so much with Coyle, at least in Worm, where
I do like
having that flip somehow, I don't know, it seems really difficult to pull off without major rewrites.
It also, selfishly, I did really like the way we initially did the reveal that Coyle and Calvert were the same person, using the flashback of them at fighting, what's his face?
Nobog.
Nobog, thank you.
Right.
Which I think was fun.
Yeah.
So, but fun idea. I like the idea there. Fun stuff to work with.
Cool.
The only other big change from season 1 that I know we got a lot of pushback on that we haven't adjusted was putting Lung into the Leviathan fight. Admittedly, this was just a selfish change I wanted to do because it sounded cool. And I wanted Lung and Leviathan to fight. And because we really have no reason to go and rewatch for any reason the fight they had in Japan. It just didn't fit into the story at all to show that for any reason.
Yeah.
So here was a little way of getting them to fight, but got a lot of pushback on that one. So a eternal asterisk on that.
Yeah.
But,
I think
left it in for now.
Yeah, I could definitely see it being a sort of that, not to jump ahead, but sort of like you guys do eventually with Gold Morning. How like, oh, we beat Jack, but it's only episode 3. Uh-oh. Kind of that with Lung, where it's like, okay, cool, we caught Lung. He's the main antagonist of season 1, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And then there's 3 episodes left,
Right.
So I could see it working either way. I mean, I like Lung as a character, so I wouldn't be mad to see more of him. I guess the question would be like narratively, if it would make sense for him to still be sent to the birdcage after helping with the Leviathan fight.
That was the big pushback a lot of fans gave, was that it sort of invalidated the kind of code that they have where and we did address that, being like, well, it wasn't a decision, it was actually Armsmaster himself who went over everyone's head and did it kind of behind their backs to let Lung out so that he could manipulate the scene to try to defeat Leviathan himself. But again, that kind of goes back into that kind of overcomplicating things a bit. So,
well,
it's clear for now.
Plus, then it doesn't let Armsmaster have as much of a highlight in that fight as well. It feels like maybe.
Yeah.
Well, no, the narrative for here would be that while Taylor is running around helping, she is observing fights most of the time. And if we use Lung as essentially our POV for the fighting, the action part, we get that part. And then ultimately where the two come together would be Taylor observing Armsmaster betray Lung in order to fight Leviathan.
Like she's the witness to it.
She's the witness to it.
Yeah.
And that way you also get a singular explanation as to what Armsmaster did, as opposed to he manipulated the entirety of the system so that
all the armbands
villains kept getting in the way instead of heroes to like take the damage, which is what he did.
Yeah. I mean, I could kind of see it either way, where you start hearing names dropping, and they're names of people we recognize, because like Kaiser falls in the fight, right? So you can be like, wait, Kaiser just died, like, and then you keep hearing names, and Taylor's hearing them like, oh wait, that's a villain. Like, you could have it either way. I think it just depends on adding Lung complicates it while also simplifying it. So it's kind of a, it could go either way, catch-22, so to speak.
Yeah.
I like having Lung in the fight. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
I like Lung. I like the idea of having him more in the season.
I think
the big change that we did for this one was we kept him alive at the end instead of letting him go out. Like, I wanted to kill him.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys had made it ambiguous, and then there was like one little teaser thing that was like, oh,
Yeah. Little twitch of the.
What is it? The Michael Bay leg twitch? You're like, oh! What?
It's a tail twitch. It's not the tail isn't attached, but like the tail like still.
The tail flicks in the water.
The one other thing that I do try to justify the inclusion with is just for Lung's character, and his power specifically is really cool, and it sort of has this unknown limit or potential that's kind of reached by the very end. Like, he goes toe-to-toe with Scion for a minute or two, which is crazy. And like, to jump from street level thug to 1v1ing Scion with no scaling in between is kind of wild. So throwing in like he did take on Leviathan and kind of had the upper hand for a minute could help sort of just narratively bridge that power scaling. But that's thinking like, long.
I think it's complicated either way, and we're just choosing which kind of complicated
That's true. That's very true.
Go with. And I like the Lung part, so.
Yeah.
But other than that, we didn't really do much with season 1. Season 1, we kind of left.
It's a solid storyline.
Yeah. I mean, you look at all the threads online. Everyone anytime you see a thread that's like, if this was a show, what would you do? Everyone agrees that like movie 1 or season 1 is beginning to Leviathan. Like, it's just such a clean cut of arcs. So it works very well.
It does indeed.
On to season 2. You
want me to narrate that too?
If you would do with him, you want to?
Yeah, sure. So the POV for this would be Taylor, Amy, Weld, and Faultline. The arc focus would be protecting people. I know that's odd compared to what we would normally say, but last one, like I said, is building up the villain. This one is protecting territory, protecting people you're with, all that jazz. Hey, Birdie. Um, so for this one, the big changes that we would follow the Palanquin team or Fault Lines crew while they hunt down cauldron leads. The Slaughterhouse 9 arriving in town is a murder mystery that reveals that they are in town, or who they are, that they are in town recruiting, and then finding out who was being recruited, being your big mysteries in that. Coyle, of course, as we said, is finally revealed to be the employer from the last time. The numbers that the Undersiders and Travelers started using in season 1, they continue to kind of use in season 2. Like Lisa throws out those numbers, and it ultimately outs them at the meeting of the heroes and villains as the Dinah kidnappers. Which is why they have to leave. And that's also when Taylor learns that they did that. Specifically. She didn't know that before, and she didn't know where those numbers came from. And Weld puts that together because he's such a smart boy.
Detective Weld.
I know, Detective Weld. Pigott is more Amanda Waller than usual. And Victoria does not get slimed and spiked like a beach ball in this arc. But Amy does still have a bunch of, feelings. Maybe does her little brain tap thing on Victoria, and also learns who her dad is in this. All while she's like being recruited and struggling with being a hero, kind of getting turned into a villain, dealing with her place in the world. And then another big thing is we do not reveal yet that Dragon is an AI. That also gets pushed back.
Right. To the audience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't know that yet.
Gotcha.
When you said slimed and spiked like a beach ball. Do you mean when she gets put in the weird egg thing and then is also like turned into the monster?
No, I mean how she got turned into that was that she gets headbutted and spiked like a beach ball, and then because that breaks her force field, Crawler spits acid all over her, and that's what deforms her. Then she gets taken away and turned into the swan neck creature and the crystal egg.
So
Fascinating. Forgot about that.
Okay. Yeah. No, I
As
also
a point of
forgot about that as
clarification,
well.
she gets spit on first and is like, this doesn't bother me. I'm immune. And then she gets headbutted.
Okay, so I
breaks
did
the-
write it. Never question me. I did put slimed and spiked like a beach ball.
Yeah, you did. You wrote
First
it
thing
correctly.
you got to know, I'm never wrong.
True.
I can't believe you would
Okay.
I can't believe the
Nobody
viewers
said
would
you were.
ever question
No
me.
one
No,
was
this isn't you.
questioning you.
The viewers were questioning me for a second, and they should be ashamed of themselves. I'm always right.
Oh my
Next
god.
question.
So humble. God damn.
Also, Birdie just absolutely came by and crop dusted me. My goodness. Talk about getting slimed and spiked like a beach ball. My nose. Ooh.
Birdie's our cat, by the way, for people who don't know who she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
People can arrive from
Not to be
context, but it is
confused with
some
your
creature of some
bird,
kind.
Caddy.
Right.
or our dog, Giraffe. And wait till you find out what our giraffe is named.
Oh my god. Okay, back on topic, please.
Okay, so it kind of sounds like major changes here, of course, is the delay of Taylor knowing about Dinah, knowing that they kidnapped Dinah. Because at this point, and forgive me if I'm wrong with Worm too, but at this point, she's still kind of thinking she wants to be. No, in Worm, she's kind of abandoned the whole hero idea. She's like, I'm just going to be a good person and do it my own way.
Yeah.
Screw the PRT. And are we kind of going in the same direction here? We're realizing Arms Master's been a douche the whole time.
We haven't changed the hospital scene at the end of season 1.
Yeah.
Some minor little tweaks. But
I
for the most
remember
part,
talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's staying. So Taylor's like discussed with
Disillusioned.
Arms Master. Yeah,
disillusioned with the whole hero project. I understand.
Yeah.
And Coyle off the bat in season 2 would be having that conversation with her. about what do you want? And she's like, I want you to improve the city. And he's like, how about this? I give you territory and you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give you
she's
territory
yeah.
and
Like-
resources.
I'm in.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Um,
cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I like that. I was just trying to remember how it was structured, and I'm, the worm knee's just hitting me again, where I can't
Yeah,
remember
we
where
would-
things
Things
we
are.
is so bad.
Never stops.
Her meeting the employer, which is like episode 3, I think, right before, is that before or after the bank heist? I think it's after the bank heist. So end of
After.
episode arc 3.
Yeah.
We've bumped that all the way to probably the end of episode 3 or arc 3 of season 2.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of moving
After
that
they
back.
do, I think that's their raid on the PRT building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right after that.
So
Yeah.
after they, that's like episode 2. I take it back. It's like 1 or 2.
Okay.
It's early on.
Yeah. Episode 1.
Well, it
yeah.
doesn't matter.
End of
too
that.
much.
It
It would
does
be
matter.
revealed. It would be revealed. Oh, hey, let's take a ride. I know what everybody else wants out of this villain team, and they're mostly altruistic reasons, as we've kind of gathered. But what do you want? And she's like, I want you to improve the city. I think that PRT is corrupt and terrible, and if I'm going to be with a corrupt and terrible group, I'm going to go with somebody who's actually like can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's fine. So I think delaying the Dinah thing as well is a neat little revelation,
Yeah.
kind of tucked in there as well. Now, like, because I think too, what that does for Taylor in this rewrite is she's been working with the villains, kind of justifying it to herself as like, but we're actually doing good things. We're making the city better. Like, sure, they're labeled the bad guys, but they're not that bad. And then she finds out, oh, they kidnapped a child. Oh no.
Yeah. Things go
Yeah.
downhill.
And as we talked about
Yeah.
earlier, going over all this, you learn about that, near the end
Really
of
early.
season 1. And then
Yeah.
while it's on her mind, does not get addressed for
No.
a whole other season because they're busy with the Slaughterhouse 9 so much.
Mhm.
And, then you go into season 3 finally to deal with that. And I think delaying it for a season just so that we can end the season with like, okay, I've learned about this and I need to deal with this being the leading question into the next season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can also build suspicion with Taylor throughout the season. Where are you getting all these stats and numbers? Maybe she spots Dinah in the corner one time at the base. Little thing you can sprinkle in the doubts and the questions for a season until it finally sort of dawns on her,
Mhm.
and she puts 2 and 2 together and is
Yeah.
just horrified.
Yeah, for sure.
Also,
Invasion of
Birdie
the
being
cat.
the cutest, most curious little kitty.
Mm.
She's like, ooh, Mike.
That also, as I'm saying it out loud, that also does kind of tie into like a secondary theme for season 2 we have, which is just general mystery vibes, and we're doing a lot of that. We've got Detective Coyle, we've got Slaughterhouse 9 going. Like everything
Detective
is.
Weld?
Or sorry, Weld. I said Coyle.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I just want to make sure.
Detective Weld.
Look, there's a lot of 4-letter words
Yeah, no,
in
it's
a
fine.
series. I can't
and
be,
Fine.
Weld
can't
and
be
Coils
tricked
are
to
both, it's
remember
both metal.
every
and
single one of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like the murder mystery vibes because I
Me
think
too.
the investigation, because we have that scene in actual Worm where Weld and team are investigating some murders, and the travelers are there as well.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like that false ending too, where you almost think they catch the travelers at one of the murder sites, and they're like, oh, "It's been you guys," and we think like
You
maybe as the audience, "Oh no,
Yeah.
these are the people Taylor's working with," and then they go, "No, this isn't us," kind of
Yeah.
implying it's
Yeah.
somebody worse. So
Yeah.
I do like that murder mystery, the false leads and the murder mystery vibes, and not finding all the grotesque bodies at once, but like, spreading those out a bit more.
Sprinkling them out a little bit
sprinkling,
around Brockton Bay.
Sprinkling.
Yeah, Sprank.
Yeah. I remember specifically, I don't read Reddit comments anymore because I get my feelings hurt. But even if they're not about me, it doesn't matter. I get my feelings hurt. I remember the reason I was like, okay, I think I'm done is because I was reading back old stuff and someone like went off on Reddit about us having Detective Weld and how they thought that was the dumbest, stupid. They hated it. They just hated it. And all the comments underneath it were like, who do these people think they are? It makes me so sad. I
like
can't
Weld.
help it. I love Detective Weld. I think he's such a Boy Scout. He's so great. I love him to death. I think little Detective Weld with his notebook, like, I'm here for it. It's my favorite change. One of my favorite changes for the screen adaptation. I love Detective Weld. And I know
'Cause he
other
already has
people
that
are
little
going to be
notebook.
upset about it.
This little Blues Clues ass
little
notebook thing, like flips out. He's like, "Wait a minute."
He's
and he
like
just
crayon.
points and just
He
he's
He
like,
uses a crayon because he can't.
"You can't use touch the
The
metal."
use a
pen would
pen.
like melt into his
And even
hand,
the
so he
graphite-
legitimately has a
and so he,
crayon.
like- and he like looks and he goes,
"Oh my god!"
"Dinah Alcott," and everybody's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yes.
He's like, "Dinah Alcott. That's where the numbers are coming from. Nobody else would talk about percentages of things of outcomes like that. They kidnapped a kid," and you're like,
Yeah.
"Whoa,
Yeah.
he's he's out of line,
Right.
but he's right."
Yeah.
And I think
I
I
love
think
it
him
so
like looking
much.
at a board
So
and
much.
going, "That's 3 dead bodies. What do you want to bet that we're about to hear about another 3 dead bodies?" And they're
Mhm.
like, "What?" He's like, "Look, chains, like burn, whatnot.
Yeah,
Y'all know who the Slaughterhouse-9 are, right?
I love it.
Like,
I think
Oh,
it's
yeah,
so
I'll bet
fun.
it
you,
makes-
I'll bet you we
yeah.
get 2 more sets of 3." Like,
I mean,
just,
it's that storytelling. Like, I don't think it's an archetype, but it's like the storytelling method that you have, like, the apprentice, so they're constantly learning something, or like the detective is like they're figuring things out and they're explaining
Yeah.
what they've figured out to
Mhm.
not just the other people in the cast, but like to us as the viewer. I love
The
that
audience.
so
Yeah.
much. I think that's so much fun.
also,
Ugh.
if we have him, which we do for a little bit, have him as the, like, focus, our POV character. Like, he comes in,
Yeah,
and we kind of talk about how smart he is in the helicopter, but
he's such a
and he does off a lot of the people interaction,
yeah.
but he is he's not only brawn, but he's brains,
What a
and
peach. What a
that
peach.
is something that makes Weld a really good character in World.
So-
is he's like
Yeah.
he is
Oh, yeah.
a very hero's
Yeah.
hero. I mean, he's young, so he doesn't have all the like nitty gritty
He
stuff
hasn't been
down. But on
jaded.
paper, he's really good. Like he's smart. He can figure things out, and he's like super good with his powers and like coordinating a team of people. The one
Yeah.
thing that he just wasn't good at was like coming in and kind of like taking everybody's feelings and whatnot into account.
Yeah.
Did we talk? I had this idea for the opening scene for Weld. I don't know if we talked about it initially, but it just makes so much sense in my mind. Is because he's flown in right from out of town, and the small little change we made is that
Austin.
in Worm, from Boston, he's got a Boston accent. Don't forget, he's got a Boston accent.
I love that.
We did
Love a good
change that
cop with a Boston accent.
he was not present for Leviathan. In Worm, he was. He's mentioned that he fought with Leviathan. We changed it that he didn't, just to make him
Oh.
more distant from the rest of the team. So he's flown in from Boston.
Makes sense.
Opening scene, him flying in, looking out the window. His plane is empty, looking over the destruction of Brockton Bay. We get to see that from his point of view. Lands at an empty airport, walking through an empty airport, which, for comedic effect, loud echoing stomps of his giant metal feet throughout an empty airport.
Metal detectors
Yeah.
go off.
Metal detectors
I
going
love
off,
it.
Metal detectors going off.
completely empty. He gets to the end, like the baggage claim, and there's Thomas Calvert with like a little sign, Weld, like waiting for him, smiling, like grinning. And then when he shakes his hand, Weld accidentally pulls off his watch because it sticks to
Oh,
him,
I love that.
kind of just illustrating his little limitations
Yeah.
of his powers.
Yeah.
So I feel like Weld wears gloves.
He probably does. It's a small little plot point, but or plot hole. But
Yeah.
For whatever reason, he didn't wear it
Oh, just
on the trip.
just
Yeah.
more Weld. That's what just give me more Weld.
Yeah.
Also,
I
in my
could
mind,
watch.
just to throw it out there, just because I'm stuck watching so much Severance right now because it's incredible. But
I'll catch up. Catch up.
I forget Tremel Tillman, I think, the actor who plays Mr. Milchek. Brilliant actor. That's my Coyle / Thomas Calvert in my mind. Just has that haunting evil smile. I love him.
I love it.
Also, in my head, the type, the show was so and so, but there is like an anime, I think done by the same person who did Full Metal Alchemist, about a human gun that is a detective, like a noir detective.
What?
Okay.
Okay, all right. You got me. You got me
mean,
hooked.
you did start with anime. I should have
interested.
known.
Yep. No Guns Life. And he wears his
Sounds
trench
right.
coat.
It's a
And
gun that wears a trench coat.
Yep. All right.
And that is
I'll put a
kind of what I
picture
imagine the Weld vibe being.
Stop.
Yeah.
Okay, but the art style for some of this is giving me like Saga. This is fantastic. What the heck?
What is-
Wait, this is actually looks really good.
Interesting. No Guns Life.
That's great.
What the
All right,
heck?
bring it back.
I can tell the art
Bring it
style does. The art
Come on.
style is very reminiscent of Full Metal Alchemist, so I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Bring it back.
bringing it back.
All right.
Yeah. Those are pretty much all the big changes for season 2. We're giving a lot more breath to some of our secondary characters, just to let them do more.
Yeah.
Grow the world.
I like that. They're good characters. Obviously not good people, but
Oh,
I think
What?
we just lost
we
Michael.
lost Michael.
Oh.
That's no good.
Oh
Oh no.
we'll
Michael.
just wait here patiently.
Arguably the most
We lost our
important.
producer. I will say we are at 40 minutes and we've only done 2 seasons.
Out of how many again? 5?
5? Okay, I
Okay.
thought there were 8, so that's probably
No,
4.
5.
Thank
Yeah.
God.
I'm keeping track. I am looking at the time. We'll move
Okay,
forward.
good.
Well,
Michael
season
just went
5
off.
is like no change. So
All right. Jacob, I have some pointless movie facts for you.
you hit me. You know I love these.
Marty McFly never makes it back to his original timeline in any of the Back to the Future movies and finishes his life in an alternate.
Okay, so this is a bit of a pedestal for me. That is incorrect, although it's a really good fan theory. But he absolutely makes it back to his original timeline because it's a paradox. It's a paradox film. If it was alternate timelines, he would not begin disappearing if the future was not correct. So it can't be alternate timelines, which means it's the original timeline, which is a paradox and shouldn't work. But that's
Gotcha.
the film.
So we're going with the what's one timeline. All right.
That's fine.
Sigourney Weaver has played basketball in outer space in 2 different movies involving aliens, and neither of them were Space Jam or its sequel.
Okay, I mean, Alien. Alien. What was the other? I don't know
But
what
I
else. she
assume
did.
Avatar.
Oh, it's got it right. She did play a little basketball in Avatar, didn't she?
Yeah,
Since-
absolutely Avatar. Avatar, yes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
so
use the
Alien,
rest of it real
Alien and
quick.
Avatar.
If you're going to be that
I'll be
tall,
back.
you're going to play basketball, obviously.
Okay, that's right.
When what's his face first wakes up and he goes outside, she's playing basketball.
Yeah.
I saw that movie way too many times in high school because it was my dad's favorite movie. Still haven't seen
If you
it.
remove all of the Millie Bobby Brown scenes from Kong versus Godzilla, there is no impact on the movie at all.
I believe that 100%. Yep, that checks out.
Oh no.
A couple others added. Mary Steenburgen has a tendency to seduce time travelers.
Jacob, you and I had the same bet.
We both text Michael.
Yep, at the same time. Mine sent right after I saw yours come in.
These are funny.
I don't know who that is, but I'm assuming that she plays the mom in Marty McFly, like the young mom, and then probably
Oh.
also plays like the wife in like the time travel. That's the Kurt Vonnegut movie. I don't know if that's true. I'm just going off vibes.
I'm curious. Keep
Mary
going if you got more.
Steenburgen. I got one more. Oh no, I've got a couple more in here. When Captain America travels to the past by himself to save his life, he completely ignores the fact that Bucky is being tortured somewhere, or he could have prevented JFK's assassination.
I want to say either the Rousseau brothers or somebody else came out and said, no, when he went back, he fixed everything. Don't worry. Alternate timeline.
I thought
But-
it was went back and said he did nothing. He said, I'm going to die here in this house. You Only Live Twice is the only James Bond film where 007 never drives a car.
Oh, that's a good one. That's fun.
Oh, couple extra fun facts. Watching one of the VFX artists react, the guy who worked on the Astartes 40K fan film did work on the 40K secret level episode.
Oh, good. Good for him.
It looked he
Deserves
was one
it.
of the like choreographers in the credits.
Totally deserves it.
Nice.
Good
So
for him.
I was like, I mean, it looked and felt like it for a lot of the running and stuff like that. So I was like,
Yeah.
Michael's
It had hints of him. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
His internet went out. He
And
said.
then the
No.
and then the other one was they're watching Megalopolis. And at one point in time in the movie, he's like, they're talking about like phone stuff. Surely there's got to be a phone in this movie. Like they're
QR
like, yeah,
codes.
of course, there's
It's
got to be
QR
one in
codes.
there. Oh, they have QR codes for an auction, and they're like,
for the auction.
there's no phones in this movie, is there? And it's like, no, they have QR codes. There has to be phones. And they're like, you're right. And then at quick editor's note, there are no phones in that movie. There is like everything about phones. There's but they talk into an old timey radio at one point in time. Like that's the only cellular communication you get.
That's funny.
In the Spanish version of Terminator, he doesn't say hasta la vista, baby. Instead, he says sayonara, baby.
That's good. That's a good one.
In Straight Outta Compton, O'Shea Jackson Jr. plays his father, Ice Cube. At one point in time in the film, Ice Cube and his wife have a baby who was seen on screen. The baby is most likely O'Shea Jackson Jr. Sir Patrick Stewart, James McAvoy, Sir Ian McKellen, and Michael Fassbender, who all play, Xavier and Magneto, have also all played in the title role of different movie adaptations of Macbeth.
Oh, I did know that one. That's a good one.
All right, I'm back.
That's funny.
All right, moving on to season 3.
Season 3.
The POV for this would be Taylor, Travelers, obviously, and Weld. So, in this season, the big arc here would be unraveling all the conspiracies. Lisa would be working closer with Coyle, almost like his right-hand man. Taylor plots to overthrow Coyle and free Dinah. Pigott is compromised by being exposed to Regent. So that's why she's out and Thomas steps in. Because of this, there's no mayor scene. There's none of that. We just go straight to Thomas Calvert directly taking over because that's how the chain of command works. PRT heroes are somewhat divided mostly between the wards and the actual protectorate over what's going on within the PRT. And then Weld and the wards discover that Thomas is Coyle ultimately. Dinah is not sent back home until after the Echidna fight. Victoria is now wounded by Echidna and burned and whatnot, which is when Amy breaks down and does all of her shtick. And Lisa coordinates the reveal of Cauldron with Fault and Weld's investigations all kind of coming together. I realize I went through that really fast, but any thoughts?
That's all right.
Not a few changes, not as many. Actually, looking back over it, that I was remembering. So,
Yeah. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. We're still dealing with the delayed payoff of Dinah.
Yeah.
But again, I don't necessarily mind that. I think that's fine. Yeah, seems cool to me. I didn't really catch anything. I was like, oh yeah, that was weird.
Dinah would actually play a big role in the entirety of this because
Yeah.
for the first half, she would be the impetus for Taylor to kind of rescue her and get her out from
Right.
Coil's control. And then the second half, she would be using her to defeat Echidna. And also kind of succumbing to
right.
the temptation of literally just becoming Coil again and
Yeah,
keeping Dinah around.
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, the we played around a lot with that. The change being really emphasizing Taylor's like not slip because she doesn't go that far, but that she has that moment where it becomes really alluring to go full villain. Like, oh man,
Mm-hmm.
I could really do everything I wanted to do if I just committed to doing it all the wrong things for the right reasons, kind of
Yeah.
plant that idea a little
I
early
think
on here.
also there's a moment where she turns away from the, dealing with all the bullshit of Case 53s and Cauldron being broken out wide for everybody to see, where I think it would be there's a feeling in her where she's like, I could take advantage of this situation. Everybody's broken. If anything, I could probably step up and break the PRT completely and get all, I could do some real damage here. And instead, she just chooses, like, you know what? No, we're not doing that. That's not the focus. That's not why I got into this about breaking things.
Mm.
It was about fixing things ultimately.
Right.
And so she takes Dinah home and, does the don't thank me. And Dinah gives her the 2 pieces of paper. Then, cut all ties and I'm sorry. And I think that is a perfect lead into what Taylor then does in season 4.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Once again, you're not waiting around because of the format. You're not immediately moving to the next arc and having to deal with that, or like this does, where you get it at the end of season 2, or sorry, not the end of season 2. You get it midway through and then you just kind of have it lingering in the background for a long time and kind of
Yeah.
it just lingers in the background for a lot, as opposed to you end one season with it, and then you start the next season, which in real time, a year would have passed for us. So it's a great, time would have also passed in that world, of her doing that, thinking about it, mulling over what does that mean for me? What should I do?
Mm.
It's worth noting as well, of course, we didn't mention it because it's nothing, we didn't change it. We're leaving it as is. But season 2 introduces the end of the world prophecy that sort of serves as the
Okay.
overarching catalyst for the rest of the story.
Yeah. It's also
so-
why they really want to get Jack Slash. I mean,
Right. And all
something
that, all that sort of stays as is. So
Mm-hmm.
continuing with that, with Dinah leading into the end of season 3, a little bit of revelation on the paper. It's just sort of that final, or not final, but it brings that plot element back for the audience. Be like, oh yeah, that's right.
Mm.
Don't
Okay.
forget, world's ending.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I like that. I think that makes sense.
And I think, like, with Taylor's obsession over Dinah, which I think is dragged out for too long in the original story, I think transferring the obsession with the end of the world, starting in season 2 when she hears that, and then, kind of for a short
Yeah.
time is like, we got to get Dinah out of there. We got to like fix this. But that really does kick off the obsession is the end of the world. And that lasts for, 3 full seasons, kind of, especially the last 2. That is the
Yeah.
laser focus.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, the only other big change we really had with season 3, like the biggest one, is probably changing Coil's whole plan and the mayoral race and the fake death and all that kind of stuff. We pretty much cut all of that in favor of just simplifying Coyle/Calvert's taking over of the PRT, which works a lot more naturally if he's already deputy director. So he just sort of he's the one that implicates Pigott as being unfit for service due to being, associated with Regent for too long. Yada yada. Got to send her away to get checked out.
Yeah.
I can take over. It just works a little bit simpler and kind of eliminates the whole fake out death scene.
Yeah.
The only thing, my question with that is, I don't know if you said this already. Taylor's deafness comes from the explosion
Oh yeah.
at the mayoral election thing. So if you take it out, is there another way she goes deaf, or are we just not having her?
You mean
deaf?
blind?
Blind. That's what it is, not
Blind,
deaf.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
you would
find
still have her getting ambushed.
Yeah, we still have
Like-
the ambush. In all honesty, that is probably something that would need to be revised a bit. We haven't put a ton of thought into it.
It is a weird element that if your main character is suddenly blind, like having the story told through their eyes is a little tough.
Yeah.
Not to say you can't do it, because obviously Daredevil.
Yeah.
And other shows that show that well, but yeah. I mean, I always really enjoyed that element of the story
I
that
did
she
too.
relies.
It's cool.
She's
Yeah, it's really
forced
cool.
to rely on her swarm. So I was just wondering.
I want to say it was one of our patrons. It was either someone on Reddit, but I believe it was one of our patrons who
Yay,
had
we
the
love
idea who had the idea to use this moment as a way of illustrating more visually how her swarm sense might work, which you could then tie into Gold Morning and utilize the same visuals that you would implement here to everybody else to sort of give a better visual connection to her control over people during Gold Morning. So it's kind of more of a thought experiment as opposed to like a concrete idea. But I do like that. I like being able to have an opportunity to change the way the audience sees her power for a minute. It's kind of fun. It offers some variety to
visually
to the power.
and
Once again, in retrospect, it would be really fun to just make her permanently blind here, because for all intents and purposes, just ramping up her like embracing the power and relying more and more on her power and less like because she grows. I mean, even Gollum mentions that she's more and more disconnected, not from humanity like Glasstig is, but like she's so single-minded and like the end of the world and focusing on that she just drives everyone else up a wall.
She's blind to everything else.
Blind to everything else.
Yeah.
And I think
symbolism.
That would be a great stonks. I think that would be like, not only would that be a really fun writing exercise of like, she already throws bugs on everything. So unless something doesn't have any bugs, like, which would then be a fun problem to write out of like, oh, all of my bugs are dead, I can't see. Like you can have a lot of fun with that. And then ultimately when she, goes full Kepri, like she could be just essentially sensing through everybody else's senses. So
Yeah. I think again it presents that writing problem that could be interesting, but could also be like, oh wait, this was an important moment. She only would have known about if she could have seen it happen.
She fucking drives a car for the first time
drive a car blind.
Yeah.
Like I don't think writing around anything else is going to top that. Like,
yeah.
Especially when she like, very soon after this, she spends a lot of time essentially blind. When she is with the entire time she's in the PRT headquarters after this, she is just sitting there. The entire arc is her sensing through her bugs everything that's going on. So like, and I think about multiple instances where that is how she is effectively working. Is she is all her senses are going out. She is taking in the information and then relaying it, in some cases. she could Zen master half this shit if her range was far enough, or she could just sit in a room and
Yeah.
The only thing with making her blind forever and is if this was live action, it would be potentially limiting the amount of emotion you can convey on your face. If you're, it's
Well-
one of your senses, and a lot of your
Yeah.
subconscious communication is in the eyes. That
It does.
wouldn't
I will
be a
say-
bad thing. It's just something to consider.
I
Yeah.
will
You know?
say that that would mostly only apply, I think, if we saw literally everything from Taylor's perspective.
Right.
But if not, so my wife and I, we watched a show called In the Dark, which is kind of it's an okay show. It's one of those shows that like starts off with a cool premise and kind of drops off at the end. But the main character is blind, and she stumbles across the body of a friend in an alleyway, and so it's this whole murder mystery thing
Oh.
where she's trying to figure it all out while being blind. It's this really interesting, like how she overcomes her limitations. But she's a great actress. She does a great job of emoting, but without actually like looking at people, which is a really fun little detail to notice. So I think you could still do a lot with Taylor, even if she was blind. You would only miss it if it was literally from her perspective, right? Because then she wouldn't get to see facial and it'd be more like outlines or vague impressions of what's going on. But you'd probably only want to do that visually every once in a while, because otherwise it'd be pretty hard to watch, I think.
It would
Yeah.
feel very much like
But-
Daredevil.
But it
Because-
would be
I was
it
gonna
would
say, feel
change,
very
though.
much like Taylor. Taylor already, we know, has a thing where she subconsciously doesn't look at stuff. She already is generally stone cold.
True.
Other than getting frustrated, which is a very easy emotion to show.
True.
Like her not looking and then maybe turning vaguely in the direction of the person to like look, but not,
Right,
not to
yeah.
look directly at them. And you wouldn't even have to, I don't even think you'd have to like do anything weird with the eyes. Like we know she's blind. Like we don't have
Yeah.
to milky them up. Just have her kind of like not look directly at the person. Look at,
Right. Look
right
in the
over their
general
shoulder.
direction, not necessarily.
That
Yeah.
is, that's such a Taylor.
Although
Like I think that would just enhance Taylor's like character to act out of how like
creepiness
alien
level
she is.
as because the thing is she can still see. She's just seeing through her bugs now. So she can't see facial expressions because she doesn't have bugs sitting on people's faces, but she knows where they are. She knows their body movement. She can sense when their shoulders tense because she's got bugs on them. She knows where they're standing. So even the idea of like her not looking directly at people, she can still look directly at somebody. She knows exactly where they are. It's just she just can't read like the facial expression. She's bitch.
Except she can tell tone and stuff. Like she's not.
Well, yeah.
I think it would just, in terms of
trying to be
her
funny, but okay.
movements and her acting, I think it would
It's
just
fine.
be really fun.
It is fun. It is interesting. I'm not sure I love it, but I don't exactly know why.
Yeah, I think
that's not
either
helpful at
way.
all.
I mean, I think either way, if you kept it in and used that as an extra storytelling thing with Taylor, I think it would work. If you also left it out and you didn't have it, I think that would also be fine. Because in the same way, like Taylor uses her bugs to get around anyways. This is just a slightly different variation on that. So like
I think you could you could tastefully just do it for a scene. There's an
Mhm.
explosion, whatever it is, rocks her, she loses her sight, she's scared, she doesn't know what she's doing, calms herself down, realizes
the
she can
bug,
use her
yeah.
swarm,
mhm.
utilizes it.
We actually already have that scene.
Yeah.
She both does it in the story slightly, and we enhanced it a
Yeah.
little. It's the merchant fight where they are all
Oh, yeah,
in a
yeah, you're
crowd
right.
together,
Yeah.
and there's something, I forget if she gets something thrown in her face or whatnot, but she essentially just senses out where the guy is and then busts him in the kneecap.
She closes her eyes, right? Because she's like, it's too much. My
Overstimulated.
Isn't
There's
it
lights.
because Labyrinth is there
Mhm.
and she's like making the world look
Yeah.
wonky, and it's like,
Or getting vertigo and stuff.
Yeah, she's getting vertigo, so instead she just closes her eyes.
That
Is that
sounds
what
right.
it
Yeah,
is?
I think you're right.
Something like that.
I think you're right.
feel
That's
like
what
that
I'm
might
like.
be right.
She vibes it out and
If I know.
eats the guy who's like running at her with a broken bottle
Yeah.
or a knife or
Yeah,
something
something
like
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have that shown.
Yeah.
And her being blind is one of my favorite like sequences. I
Mhm.
really enjoyed
Yeah.
that.
Cool.
You didn't tell me she was fucking blind is like
So good.
It's a great line.
so
Yeah.
is
good.
such a good line that it almost makes up for we're done with that very like relatively quick sequence.
Is
Yeah.
it scapegoat?
It's scapegoat,
Yeah,
yeah.
scapegoat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really love
so
that delivery.
It's
I
so
really
good.
love the whole sequence. I'm
Yeah.
actually kind of upset that it ends so early. I thought that was going to be like, oh, she's blind now, and then he heals her before the end of the arc, and you're like,
Yeah.
shucks.
We'll figure it out. We'll keep it in some.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
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 Comments are just going to be full of no detective weld.
Yeah.
I also a small adjustment here that I think would work with fault line weld and Taylor's plots, both the mystery of Cauldron and Coil and PRT all coming together would be ultimately that number one, we've said that PRT is Cauldron. But more specifically, maybe we could even have that Coil like it's hinted at that he's not directly, is kind of influenced by Cauldron's economic power and whatnot to like be the experiment of heroes running the city. So like, what if we just made that a direct connection? Where Coil just is an agent of Cauldron.
Oh, we had talked about that.
Mm.
And part of the reason they would get Dinah is because the Cauldron wants Dinah to help run numbers. And
Yeah,
that's why
she's the
he
most
has
powerful.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
He's got
because I
her?
had thought I had misread it, thinking that's what it was. I thought he was an agent of Cauldron,
I
but
did
I just
too,
misread it. Yeah,
because they talk about him in regards to like Accord as well.
Yeah.
Where like
right.
Accord
Yeah.
isn't an agent of Cauldron, but he is essentially buying all the stuff from them and very tied into them. And Coil is his friend, who he knows was kind of placed by or set up to succeed by Cauldron, but he is not aware that he was doing Cauldron's plan.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Some fun things you can play with.
Season 4?
Season 4.
Yep.
All right. POV for this would be Taylor, Dragon, and Amy. Big thing in this is that Dragon's point of view would be mainly fighting Taylor on one side, and then her superiors the entire other time. Defiant would be there, but the way we would see Defiant's character would kind of be from over the shoulder of Dragon and not the other way around. Piglet is cleared for service and comes back with a vengeance. So no bitch McGee, whatever his name was, that didn't even matter because he
Tag.
lasted. Yeah,
No tag.
Tag, who lasts, one more day than Coil did in PRT. The end of the world is talked about a lot more, and it becomes the Taylor Dinah obsession instead of Dinah herself. Dragon convinces Taylor to join her by revealing herself to be a robot at the, on the rooftop, reminding her that like she believes in her. She believes that the end of the world is coming. Defiant changed. Taylor can change. We can do this together. There is this ultimate goal we can work towards. We just have to cooperate. And we cut down on Taylor's heroing once she's in the PRT, and make her closer to what she was doing on loan for Dragon Defiant, where she's kind of like a PRT directed weapon like Dragon.
Mm.
Not too much, but just a little bit. And then Amy, all of her scenes are the prison scenes that we would have had with Lung and Marquis before, but we also add in a little more Glasstig and have them with their little fun discussions and Amy, doing more of her bitchy soul searching. Also put together specifically with Glasstig and herself, kind of what is going on with passengers and the shards. They don't necessarily know what's
Yeah.
going on with the entities, but they figure out shards and passengers maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, no Cody coming back with the Yangban. Fuck that shit.
Yeah. Sorry, Cody. You gone. Oh, that was a small
Gone.
change we didn't touch on, but we did decide that in however we want to do the Travelers flashbacks, that Trickster just kills Cody at the end there instead of.
Oh yeah.
Beating
No, it was
Cody.
we do a parallel where the team essentially votes we have to get rid of Cody. Trickster kills him, and then at the end, there's essentially they put it to a vote. Do we kill Echidna? And they come to the conclusion, and then all of them do their thing, one after another, and finish her off.
Right. I did like that. Yeah.
And then we also, I
good.
think we also talked about dealing with Trickster there as well.
Right. Because because he gets away, right? They hunt him down.
He goes to the bird. He gets away. They capture him really quick, and they send him to the bird cage.
Yeah,
In
but
this
he's
letter.
helping
Sent to the
Echidna,
bird cage,
isn't he?
He helps
during that?
Echidna.
He is helping
Yeah.
Echidna
during the fight.
and I think having them vote to essentially, because they even say you can take him, we don't want him when they walk through the portal.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, have them vote to kill Echidna the same way that they voted to get rid of Cody.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know
Yeah,
if
I mean this one
had many-
this was fairly straightforward as well. We didn't have too many big changes, other than this was more minor changes.
Yeah, I think the reality is, and I think Wildbow's even alluded to this, Taylor's heroing with the PRT and with the wards and everything, that alone could be its own arc and thus its own season even.
Yeah.
And so I think that either, you would need to throw that in as at least a major arc in a season, if not a whole season, to give it sufficient time to breathe and build those relationships. Or, like you guys said, just cut it down to, okay, bare essentials, PRT's using her. She's, doing good, but maybe not the way she wants to. And her and Dragon kind of have a parallel arc of pushing up against authority, pushing up against that. And I think that works really well. As long as we do need to get some Golem in there, though.
They got to go running together. They just
make sure that they've got a bunch of scenes together, of course, to set that up.
Got to build that.
One of the big things here would be that the further we pull Taylor back, and I think there's good reason to do it, that you could find like a lot of this is I forget if I said the arc. I didn't say the arc here, but the arc for this is preparing for the end, where Taylor's, we open on Taylor looking at cut all ties, I'm sorry, the notes, and thinking about them and prepare. We have the whole arc of her preparing her team, and then she leaves them, and the reason she leaves is because she needs the resources that the PRT has in order to help stop the end of the world. Like that is the obsessive focus here.
Right.
And what pisses her off is she goes to help once again, and Pigott is not having it. She's having we don't negotiate with terrorists. And Taylor's like, this isn't a negotiation. Like, just use me to fight the bad guys. You don't have to go over my people or after my people, and she's like, nah, like now that you're here, we're going to go after them twice as hard because we know you're not with them.
I have a question. I just realized something.
Yeah.
We got rid of Tag.
Yes.
So she just murders Alexandria.
That would be. I mean, we could get rid of Pigott at this point in time.
We
talked
played
about
around
about
this
not
too.
doing it.
Yeah, I think we kept Pigott alive at the end of the day.
Which
We
I
did
think-
talk about.
I mean, you could
both
put her in the
options.
hospital. I think that's something
Yeah.
you guys had mentioned. I know we did talk about this. I don't remember what we
She
discussed
doesn't
about, though.
need to die like Alexandria does.
Right.
However, I am in favor of killing her because we've had
Pigott?
we've had 4 full seasons or 3.5 full seasons
Yeah.
of her. She's been the
I
antagonist.
love Pigott.
No. Yeah, 3 full and a half
Yeah,
seasons.
three
And
in
she's
this
been the
four.
antagonist or antagonistic towards our main character for 1, 2, at 2.5 of them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, almost three of them because she's only gone for like half of the coil one. So
Yeah.
like, she's proven herself to be Amanda Waller. That's why I say we make her a little bit worse.
Yeah.
And just like by the time we get to this, it's been building that she's put up with Taylor's shit for long enough.
Mm.
Like, this is the consequences of Taylor's actions.
Yeah.
And Pigott, who we've shown to firebomb a city, like, is
Yeah.
finally dropping the hammer, especially after the PRT is showing to be weak. She's like, we need to put up a strong front. I've called people from the outside. I've called in people that I don't like. I've called in favors. We are putting a stop to this here and now because, like they said, we can't have villains owning a city.
Right.
And I think if you have it just as a consistent character, like, you can kill her now.
Yeah, you've had 3-4 seasons of it.
Yeah.
I
We've
think,
grown to love-hate her.
yeah. I think because Alexandria's death is in the book off page, like it's like it happens, but it doesn't happen in the room. But Tag's death is right there. It's literally 2 feet away from her. Like, I feel like visually that's important for it to happen right there. And so I like the idea of someone in that room with her needs to die.
Yeah.
More for the story, less about who it is, to be honest. And
Mhm.
if it's Pigott, that makes sense. She's
Yeah.
like you said, she's been the antagonist, and it makes sense to kill her off. I just like the visceralness of that scene so much, and like having it happen there in the room.
Yeah.
But like Taylor is passing out and she's setting her bugs in motion. She's white hot anger and like
And doesn't Tag like try to fight her too in a way? Like he's like
Yeah.
tries to get up and do stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think
I think he tries to
that
choke her out or whatnot.
he tries
Yeah.
to choke her. Yeah. Or he like picks her up and slams her down or something.
something.
Yeah.
And it's also
Something physical.
It's
Yeah.
I was going to
Knocks
say,
her
and
out, they're
it's
like,
also
good
Yeah.
luck with that.
it
Yeah.
shows that Taylor is very intentional in this because it's not a mass swarm that's biting and stinging everybody because
Yeah.
other people are in the room. Like, isn't it
Right.
Miss Militia eventually knocks her out? So
Yeah.
Her lawyer is there, and isn't her dad also there?
Her dad's there too.
yeah, and Danny's there.
Yeah.
So it's very much a controlled and targeted attack, which
Yeah.
is intent. It's like, that's murder. That's not just like I lost my
Yeah.
emotions and the bugs
Right.
went crazy.
Premeditated.
Yeah, that's a little premeditation. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's true.
Well, and what I was going to say with that too is I think having that final physical confrontation with Pigott would be a lot more cathartic than with a random Tag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck
Oh, yeah.
Tag.
Yeah.
Like it's
Very
a
much.
good
He doesn't last a
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, it's a good ending to her arc, I think, to Pigott's arc.
Yeah.
In this version of Worm, right? If
Right.
in the real version of Worm, I like the way Pigott goes to end up being a supporter of Taylor, but that's only because she was gone for all of this time, right? Like she's gone when Calvert takes over, she's gone when Tag takes over. She's not in power anymore, and then she's like, you know what? Actually, this girl may have had something right. But bringing her back and putting her back in that power seat, I do think I kind of like her. She gets, yeeted.
Yeah.
She gets a conclusion.
Yeah, exactly.
She doesn't get
Exactly.
like a knife thrown up in the air and land in her back in the middle of in the middle of an arc that,
Yeah.
just happens.
Is that how she died?
She doesn't die there. She
No,
doesn't-
she gets
Oh,
knifed
that's
in the
right, that's
mayor
right, yeah.
thing, the mayoral.
Yeah.
stabbed and then is
That's
taken
right.
away.
That's right.
By
Yeah.
circus?
Circus.
Yeah, does the whole like
circus,
she's
yeah.
crawling on the
I'm
ground
so
after
proud
somebody,
of
she like throws
myself
the
that
knife
I
up in the
am
air and it
able to
lands in
pull
her
these
back.
names right
And
out.
just
man.
the knife
I'm
just
so
does a little
proud of
loop de
myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it. Oh my god.
Trying to think if there's anything else specific going on there.
Yeah, I think
Did
losing
that
Cody
bring
makes
us up?
sense. It's a small thing, but
Yeah,
uh,
that's fine.
Oh,
it's cool. It's cool from the worm story because you're allowed to leave those little seeds in books and then build them up later for little moments like that. But in a show, I think it'd be hard to.
yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be so hard
not
to
as worth it.
justify.
Just let it go.
Let it
Give
One of the
a
things
chance for new characters to shine.
Yeah.
A couple one of the scenes I think about with her heroing sequences, and we talk about it's people are losing morale. Some people actually buy into the end of the world, others don't. There's the splits and factions between like cauldron people and PRT people and how they're feeling about potentially your teammates were cauldron. That one of the reasons she is sent with a dragon craft and maybe some people to pick up Pretender or whatnot, if we did that sequence, would be that Dragon or whoever doesn't trust uh, the people picking them up, but they do trust Taylor.
Mm. Yeah.
Because Taylor was part of the group that kind of outed Cauldron. And they're like, look,
Mm.
we don't know who on the inside's bad, so we're going to send you in there to be like, oh,
Nice.
we're testing your heroism, when in reality, we know you'll do what's necessary if there's a mole.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
And of course, then she can have the like, she comes back and like, this was a setup. You wanted me to kill like one of the PRT like people and do what we did with Pigott all over again, where we like, oh, they were bad. Whoopsie daisy.
Whoopsie
Thank goodness
doo.
we had this person who felt like, oh, here I go killing again. And then you could go like, oh man, we really wish they hadn't have killed them, but she used to be a villain. That's what they do.
Right.
But ultimately they get away or whatnot. But yeah, you could have her do some sequences like that of like, hey, can we trust you? Here's an assignment, and it's not to be on a team in this case. It would be to just show that like their first assignment, can she follow orders? Can she be useful as a tool?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which leads into season 5 if we're good.
Season
Season 5.
Yeah.
Let's wrap
Season
it
five.
up.
Yeah, let's do it.
Big two perspectives, Taylor and Theo.
Yeah.
The arc, doing whatever it takes. First off, no time skip. We just have progressed over 2 years or however long we want the end of the world to be imminent to by the time we get here. None of this, the entire, first part of the story takes a course over like 3 months. None of that bullshit. It is 2 years by the time we get here, and it is a steady pace of 2 years the entire time. Every season, 6 months if you want to do that. Something like that.
That works.
Yeah. I like
Or,
that.
you do the first 2 or like,
Or you just
almost
show the
back-
passage of time and you don't have to be clear about how much time has passed. It's
I'm
just
very okay with
the
ambiguous
days
passage of time.
they do day.
Yeah.
In my ideal world, I thought about this far too long. In my ideal world, the entire series is shot at the same time, all at once, and then is edited and released appropriately instead of 2-3 years between seasons. Because for whatever fucking reason, that's the standard now. And if you were to do it that way, you could release a season every 6 months and just have it
Ooh.
happening in real time.
Oh, that would be
And
cool.
so, like, you could
That's
have
pretty
like
good.
the end of the world is introduced in season 2. By the time you get to season 5, it's like 2.5 years later. That's when the end of the world is supposed to happen.
You'd have to have all your funding up front.
Yeah.
You would have
just
to,
as
this
a-
is if I win the lottery and
Right, of course. Yeah.
And just as a sidebar too, that would be the issue with doing this live action over animation, right? Where it's like,
right.
because like it's the Stranger Things problem where you've got these child actors who are not children anymore.
They grow up. They grow up.
And they've spent so much time between seasons, you kind of notice it and you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Yep.
12-year-olds
Teenagers grow fast too.
Yeah.
Teenagers grow
exactly.
so fast. Like
Yeah.
1 year,
Yeah. And although
makes a
you
huge
could probably get you could get somebody in their early 20s to play Taylor as a high schooler, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And like some of the other undersiders, I do feel like that would be a risk, right? As it's like, yes, these 6, you run into like what is the fame, like Grease with John Travolta, where it's like, yes, all of these 40-year-old high schoolers.
Right. Right.
That's my favorite.
So,
It's like 21 Jump Street. Like they're clearly
yeah.
shouldn't be in high school, and yet
Yeah.
Tell me about the
Yeah.
wars. Any of them.
any of them.
So, anyways, and I do agree with you, Jacob. I dislike that is for some reason the standard now is so long between seasons.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
In my head, it's
or
all
they put one season out and then it gets canceled.
Or that, yeah.
right.
No.
In my head, it's animated the whole time.
Yeah,
I'm
I
picturing it.
think I've always kind of assumed it would be animated.
We've talked about, I think we all agree, I think animation probably makes the most sense for an adaptation. I push for live action simply because it's more
would be
fun to think
fun.
about actors doing the
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit
yeah.
more, it shouldn't be, but the way the world works, it is more prestige to do a live action show than animation.
Yeah.
So
It's
Mhm.
more
thinking about
easily watched. Like I know
I mean,
people who
well, is
would
it-
not watch it if it
that's
was
the other
animated.
thing.
That's
If you were
true, yeah.
making the show to like bring Worm to more people,
Yeah.
you got to go live action.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like,
Like
I don't know though. I mean, is it prestige? Like I've seen The Flash on the CW.
oh man.
again, in
Some
my
real hokey spots in that.
in my like perfect world of prestige television, this is done by pick your
Max.
oligarch streaming overlord, whoever you want, to invest $1 billion into it, make it look good, get your
It's
award-winning
Apple.
director.
It's Apple secretly
Apple.
because they
Oh,
don't
it's
care
Apple.
what
It's
you make as long
100%
as it
Apple.
spends
God,
I feel
money.
like
they would
it's
do
gotta
a
be
good
like
job.
Apple or Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Like those would be the
No,
two.
but Amazon is
No,
hit or
like-
not
miss.
Amazon. Not Amazon.
It depends though. Like they did so good with Fallout though. Like I'm like,
Fallout was really
If
fun.
one,
Yeah,
of,
that's
one
true.
of these people pick us up and then they were like, oh, wait, they trashed us. So let's just
Like
Like Hulu
name
picks it up and they're like, oh wait, actually in episode, whatever,
Yeah.
when they were doing recap,
Let's
they
just
basically
say the
trashed.
oligarchs.
to all those with lots of money.
Look, I've
Whoever
already said
wants
I'd
to.
do a CW version of this. I don't give a fuck.
Dude, I think a lot of people would watch
To
it.
be
Like
fair.
people watch The Flash. Like
yeah.
you're gonna get on
And
board
here's
with
the
it
thing. We've talked about
because of the
it.
genre.
I think that the strength of this show is not the powers. There are some powers that are visually cool, but
Sure,
for
yeah.
a lot of them, I think you can kind of and I don't mean this in like a you don't show it at all, but you can kind of imply the powers
hmm
because the strength of this show is the
It's the face. It's the constipation face means
Yeah.
you have powers,
you're
right?
doing powers. But I think you could do a lot with the low budget, just cool tricks, and all the goofing and laughing. I can't. It's throwing me so off.
Basically, it doesn't matter. Even with a low budget, you could make it work. Is your point?
Yes, the strength
definitely
is
could.
the characters
Yes,
and their interaction, not
it's
the
character
power.
driven. Yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
The strength is that you get both, in my opinion. I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah, yeah, if you
I
can
really,
get
really
both.
like that it's such a good story without the powers, and then the powers just make it freaking
Yeah.
sweet.
Make it very
Like,
cool. Make
Yeah.
it-
I don't
Very
think
For me, it's
the
scope is mostly
undersiders
what it
are
comes down
a-
to.
Mm.
I was gonna say
I
I don't
was just
think the
gonna say, like,
undersiders.
With a low budget thing. Sorry.
Go for it.
with a lower budget thing, the scope would be what I think would be difficult, right? That's where like
Yeah.
Like, 'cause I think The Flash, like season 1 of The Flash is fine. It's a pretty good show. It's when they tried to get like really big plot lines, right? And really big stuff involved. It started to get
Is
like
that,
it was a
is
bit
that
cheesy.
writing though, or is that like
Well,
budget
it's
and
writing.
execution?
I think it's kind of all of it. I mean,
Mm.
to be fair, they didn't get many rights from DC to use many of the good characters. So
That'll cripple you.
you know, and when your only villain is Reverse Flash, and so the way you beat Reverse Flash is by running faster. And every season he just has
Gotta
to
go
run a little
fast.
faster.
Gotta go fast, Barry. Just run a little faster.
I don't know. All that to say though, like I think generally early stuff, like in Green Arrow as well, like the first bits of Green Arrow
yeah.
are really good.
Oh,
I
I love
liked
that.
Green Arrow.
It's
Yeah.
when they try to broaden the scope out to be really huge that you end up with like, okay, something like there was a disconnect, hokey budget, bad CGI. And it
Yeah.
just it kind
Well, I
of, for
feel
me
like-
at least, it would take me out of it. And that would be where I'd be concerned with Worm. Like first season, everybody's like, man, this was great up until the Leviathan fight, and then everything fell apart. And that's not where you want it to fall apart, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why in my head it's animated, but
Yeah.
live action's cool too.
Yeah. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff with that
Fortiche
too.
to do it. I'm no objections,
Yeah. Allan, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I don't see the Undersiders being a so stylized that like Into the Spider-Verse, like that's not
Hmm.
it's not the world they're in's jam. I mean, I take it I could see their team, but maybe not the world they're in being that stylized. I think Fortiche would be stylized enough while still being pretty like gritty, if you will.
Yeah.
It's a more darker world.
I'm gonna say I think it could even go like super weird extreme animation. Like you could get what's the name of the studio? Hang on, I gotta find them. Science Saru. They did Devilman Crybaby. Like let's get some wacky animation out there. Make it like really unique artistically. I think
Why
it'd be fun,
stop
too.
there? Get Leica on here. Stop motion the whole thing.
I
Look amazing.
don't know.
Okay.
Get behind that.
No.
A stop motion superhero story.
I am waiting for my stop motion superhero story. I do need it.
No, but not
hear me
Worm.
out. Hear me out. It's
In the Worm
animated.
universe, then.
It's animated, but every frame is a wood engraving with ink that gets pressed into paper. And so you have like per episode 1 million wood engravings that get.
Oh my god! Now let's
whole
remember
Amazon
5
force is gone.
fucking seasons.
Yeah,
Jesus,
Deforestation.
our production team will hate us by the end of season 1.
I just
We all
I
sitting
literally
in our
just
chairs.
watched a video about how Hayao Miyazaki spent 3.5 years on 4 seconds of I forget what film it was. I don't think it was Spirited Away. It was one of them for like a crowd scene, and was just like the animators were
with the
just
crowd
weeping when he
scenes.
said it. Yep, he was like, "Yep, this is good," and all the animators were just like, "Finally!" Just like,
Holy crap.
Okay, but
Right.
you look at those crowd scenes in those movies,
They're
and they're all
incredible.
so good. Everyone is doing something different. Every
Yeah.
person has a different story.
oh, they're amazing. Yeah.
Mwah,
It's really
perfection.
impressive.
All
Okay.
All right, bring it back.
Season 5.
Back
Season
to-
5. We're so close.
5. So that's the skip. So no time skip. Taylor as her Slaughterhouse 9 kill squad with Dragon's Teeth, potentially Dinah, maybe, Golem, Defiant and Dragon. Fuck it, maybe Scrub. Who knows?
What?
And we have the like blacked out Weaver outfit with their dragon's teeth landing in the craft in Killington, and they are here to do 2 things, and they're all out of bubblegum.
Nice.
We're here to kill God and save the world, and we're all out of world.
We're all
Oh,
out of world. If that ain't the tagline.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
I mean,
we've
yeah.
hinted at this before. Golem picks up on the like, he essentially goes like, I want to request leaving from my team. We don't show this, but like it's implied like he buys into the end of the world, especially since Jack is so integral to his shtick that he has to be there. Dinah, reaches out and is like, hey, I'll essentially play Lisa for you in this, guiding you to, when you need me, give me the call. That'll help you figure out how to, kill him and stop the end of the world because it's getting close. And then, of course, Dragon Defiant being the one that kind of sponsor all of them to do this. Any notes there?
No, I like that.
All right.
It's cool.
Instead of the Slaughterhouse 9000, which is a lot of people and very interesting, we just make them, these are all Slaughterhouse 9 new recruits that we are encountering. Slaughterhouse 9 has been, recruiting people, and these are the people that they have. And so they're new faces, but they're not. We can spend time with each one of these without it being an overwhelming number.
Yeah.
Sure.
I can't remember
Yeah.
if we talked about this last time we recorded because we did just recap season 5
Yeah.
last episode, so it's fresh. But I don't remember if we said, because you have all these new faces, are we giving Gray Boy like this? No, but he's from Jack's past, or is he also a new face?
We played around with yeah. I was gonna say we entertained both ideas. We kind of went with it would make sense to, if you're going to keep one clone and bring back one clone, it would be Gray Boy. Like that's who you would do. You just have to work in how to exposit his connection to Jack a little bit cleaner. You could certainly do that. It's not impossible, but it's just another one of those like, hey, it's a complex story. How complex do you want it to be?
Yeah.
Like that whole thing. But again, yeah, if there was the one character to do it with, it's Gray Boy, and keep him as the clone.
Yeah.
We could do, if we really wanted to do an original Gray Boy got caught. The way he got caught is they essentially stuck him in a ball. And because he can't see anybody and he can't make anything outside of the ball itself, and the ball's not going anywhere, his power is essentially useless. He can keep himself alive, but he's just in a metal ball container. And then you just have Bonesaw via hacking, some other
break him out.
piggybacking some other human people. Bonesaw and Jack break him out. That's the
I could see that. I did. My idea for that too was, instead of doing the 9,000, just have her make one clone of each of the old members.
Yeah.
So it could just be like Slaughterhouse 9 Legacy is kind of like their idea. Where it's like, okay,
that.
we've got all the legacy members back.
That does sound like the bad spinoff show.
Yeah,
that's what
it does.
But no, that works
Legacy.
too. I do like that.
X9 Legacy.
Yeah.
But either way, I think would be fine. I mean, most of those fights happen so quickly. The only other one I forgot about last time when we were doing season 5 that is more of an interesting thing and could be changed is Harbinger, because Harbinger is the number man, and so having either, I think you'd have to eliminate Harbinger from the list of new faces, solely because otherwise it would just be confusing. Or go with the other idea of like, you have one clone of each of the legacy members, and somehow you find out the number man was Harbinger. But again, it's one of those like, is that such a minute story detail that doesn't really pay off that it's not worth including, right?
Contessa and them already show up to kill some of the Slaughterhouse 9.
Yeah.
But they're trying to avoid them. You just literally have a moment. It's like, Jack, and you're like, Harbinger, and they're like, whoa, he like teleports away, and you're like, whoa, who the fuck is the number man? Yeah, the fuck was that?
Yeah.
I do love the idea of
old
the number
coworkers.
Man. Of the number man fighting like a Harbinger clone. Have you all seen Equilibrium with Christian Bale?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The final fight scene, it's too cheesy, but I love it to death. And they're like the gun combat, and it's all like
gun kata.
Yeah,
with
gun
the
kata.
Grammaton clerics.
Like that's how I imagine Number Man fighting with a clone of himself. Is just like just barely dodging bullets. Just
perfectly timed maneuvers.
Yeah.
Is it time to watch Equilibrium again?
It is always time to watch Equilibrium again.
Such a good
I
movie.
have every single fight action sequence from that movie like cut or ripped from a DVD and like put somewhere.
I don't think I've actually seen
him flying through the door into the dark room, firing everywhere. Lives rent free in my mind.
No, Hannah and I are going to watch this.
Yeah.
Will we watch it this week?
Soon.
We'll watch it this
I would
week.
love to watch it.
It's
to
good.
me, Equilibrium is like,
Christian Bale.
it's the best of those movies that came post Matrix that all tried to be the Matrix.
That's what I'm getting.
Yeah. And Equilibrium got the closest to touching the sun, which was about a 40% of Rotten Tomatoes. But,
Oh no.
That might be a little generous, actually. I don't know what it got.
It's still, I still think it's really clever. It's got a bunch of fun stuff.
It's good. It's a
but
really
it does
good plot.
feel like a ripoff of a lot of other movies, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's got a great cast though. So I mean it's well acted. I feel like it's just fun. It's just fun to watch. Like it's a good no thinky kind of movie.
No, thank
Promise
you.
I did not look this up. I promise.
Is it 40%?
It has
it
an
40%?
exact 40%.
Nice.
I mean, if there's one thing
fantastic.
Jacob knows.
Jacob's always right.
Not surprised.
Although
Yeah,
that is the critics. Audiences gave it an 81. So there you go.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's a popcorn movie.
Yeah.
You know, it is great. It's great for what
It's
it
a
is.
popcorn movie that thinks it's Plato's Cave, but
Yeah.
it's just a comic book.
yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, back to Worm.
Taylor in this does not futz around with Teacher, the Yongbon, or recruiting the Simurgh or any of that. It is straight to the fight. It is a sequence of collecting bodies and throwing them at Scion.
Yeah.
We can swing by and grab those people, but we are grabbing them. We are not having a drag out fight
talking.
with any of this shit.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, there's so much happening that like I felt like the whole conversation with Teacher was like useless to me. I mean, fuck Teacher, so
Yeah. I think the thing I would say, remind me if you guys still have the Simurgh and Leviathan joining in the fight anyway, or like the other Endbringers joining in the fight. I don't remember if you did or not.
We didn't really
I don't
put
think
it
we
in there. We didn't
discussed it much.
we didn't really discuss it. You certainly could. You couldn't. Take it or leave it. I think we have them kind of going dormant after Eidolon is
only because I think as an idea, if you wanted to put this in there. So we have Behemoth get killed by Scion, right?
Yeah.
Then in this fight, we see Eidolon fighting, almost succeeding against Scion, but then just seeming like he's about to, but then getting obliterated. I think an easy way to show that Eidolon was connected to the Endbringers is when he dies, you have a flash to the Simurgh and Leviathan. And it's like something activates in them when he dies. So you flash to them and they kind of turn, and then you see them moving towards the fight as well. So it's not so much that, Tattletale figured out that you can control the Simurgh if you ask her nicely enough. You know, it's more like his death triggered something in them that made them want to fight Scion.
Switch teams, if you will.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
And would be a better explanation instead of us talking the entire time about like, Eidolon definitely
don't say it.
was connected.
Yeah.
We don't say it. Those just turn and we leave it up to the audience that they were connected somehow.
And what I like about that too is it because for Taylor to get to the point where she's willing to mind control everybody, I mean, she's been pushed to the limit already, but I think that having that one last thing of, wow, the Simurgh, Leviathan, they're fighting Scion.
Yeah.
They're losing. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I think that last moment of like, our gods can't beat this creature.
Right.
We need to do something different. I think could be a good way to have that one last, like another like last push over the edge. Plus, I don't know. I like him. Like, I think we don't introduce Tohu, Bohu, and Kansu.
Oh yeah, I forgot those are cut.
We don't
voice.
like that's.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, they. And okay. I totally get that because I'm like, you know, they're in there so briefly. They're horrifying, sure, but like they're just filler, kind of.
They kind of are though.
But
like, I feel like most of their attacks are.
Yeah, but because at this point we've had the Leviathan fight, we have the big Behemoth fight where he dies, and we have the flashbacks with the Simurgh and the Travelers. I think bringing the two living ones back would be cool. That's all.
Yeah,
that's my vibe.
I like it. No, that you know what, that works. I'm gonna put a note in. Draft 2. Yeah. Strategize.
Glassdig is a little bit more antagonistic towards humanity in
Yay.
this fight.
Love it.
We talk about her potentially just standing there and watching Eidolon get blown away, and kind of have it more reference that, like, yeah, she is a human that happens to be the high priestess for Scion.
Yeah.
Like, when she's collecting souls, the ultimate goal is, and we never say this, but she's collecting souls and she's either offering them up to Scion or she becomes the new partner and they fly off together because she's collected so many shards. So we have her be like very much like, oh, she's there, but she's not necessarily on a humanity side. And she doesn't do anything until Taylor starts doing her god tier shit and directly is going after um Scion, and Glassig is like, nope, I'm not, no, that's gonna ruin a lot of stuff. So we're gonna try and get in your way. And ultimately Taylor takes her over. We have essentially a sub boss. She fights, she goes to fight Scion, Glassig gets in the way. We have the start of a good fight there, and then she shuts her down, and then we have big boy fight.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That's good.
Last change would be the it is a little bit more ambiguous about humanity working together / being forced during the ultimate god killing incident. We just kind of leave it ambiguous whether or not Taylor has controlled everybody, including the Tinkers, if they broke out and then, did it themselves, if she lost all of her power and everybody just came together at the end to kill the god. To what degree did they put themselves in range of her power to, activate and finish him off? But yeah, essentially the killing blow would be left ambiguous as to whether Taylor's ideology of forcing everybody to work together worked, or humanity banding together for the greater good works out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's good. And then leaving the ending with Contessa ambiguous as well. I remember was a little bit more ambiguous, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I remember, since this one's more fresh, I remember generally liking more specific details and thinking that was done well. I think kind of truncating the fight with Scion, or the timeline with Scion rather, where it's not so much like, okay, we've had a couple of days, he's on a different Earth. We're just, I think that truncating it makes sense for a show. Just having that big climax in it, it'd be pretty cool.
And there would be a growing frustration that we've already had of like people not working together.
Yeah.
And we would accentuate that not by like having, teachers doing this, the young bun are doing this and showing them, but maybe talking about people leaving the fight to go pursue personal vendettas. Ultimately, Saint, we'd start off, Saint screws us over. So like, and Dragon, who has been a point of view character from our last thing, hurts a lot more.
Yeah.
With Dragon gone. So Dragon's gone. We now have to deal with the consequences of that from the last season. From this season. So sorry, the first
Y'all
half
blur
of this
together.
season.
It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
Deal with that. And then we have to deal with the Las Vegas capes. And when we go into Cauldron, when they're being invaded by the Case 53s, we would have Theo take one of the groups, like the Case 53s, and we would have Taylor and her crew take on the Las Vegas capes, and then they would reconvene down at Eden.
Yeah.
Split some of the more mundane stuff up between Theo and Taylor.
Yep.
And that's it.
And we got
Those
it.
are all the changes.
Pretty simple. If you think, I barely have any notes here.
Right.
Ain't but a thing.
We couldn't go
Nailed
through
it.
every detail from the whole story. We just covered all the details that we've
Just the
changed,
big
just in
changes,
case
yeah.
you're
The
very
big change-
confused.
we didn't even go over the
I know
minor
this is the
changes.
end of the podcast, but
Yeah.
hopefully you got that the whole time.
Yeah.
So these are the
Yeah.
big changes. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I think generally you guys have done a good job with it.
Yeah.
I think we've given our critiques in playing the role of the fans, which is fun.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh,
it's
no.
been a good journey.
You've been better than that. You didn't spit on me.
Well, that
Well, Alan, you're
I
on
mean,
the
I
other side of
can
the
if you want,
house.
Alan. Alan, if that's something you're
Wow.
if that's something you're into, Alan. Kinky.
No, we've said it many times, but we know any sort of discussion like this is bound to split a fan base, especially one as passionate as Worm fans tend to be.
And
Um,
loyal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and loyal. So you're going to have fans that like any type of adaptation at all, absolutely off the table, not a chance. And we love you. You are respected and valid. This podcast just isn't for you. And I'm sorry. I wish we could. That's fine. Some people more open to it, but very hesitant. We love you all. And then, of course, people that are fully on board with this as well. So you're going to get a range of opinions and fans, and we love all of them. They're all valid.
We've talked about it before, but the biggest engagement that Worm has, I think, is through its fan fiction community, which
Yeah.
has some of the most bonkers premises I've ever heard in my life. And if you want to, this is just Worm speculation and fan fiction.
It is, and all adaptations are fan fictions. Unless, of course, the original author is doing it. Wildbow should get involved, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah.
But if he,
hear me out.
Is not all literature fan fiction at its core,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
I mean,
it's all just the hero's journey, right?
What if it all goes back to the hero's journey?
Yeah, it's all hero's journey
and
fanfic.
Somehow Twilight.
Twilight.
I did just rewatch all of those movies like 4 days ago, so it's fresh in my mind.
Yep.
Okay, hear me out. But what if they're like hot, furry?
Oh no!
They're
Now you
hot
lost me. I'm sorry.
furries,
I'm sorry.
it's
No, I
Macbeth.
can't. I'm not a furry person. Sorry. Mm-mm.
I did watch like an
Oh, God,
actual.
that's such a bad joke.
You didn't like The Lion King?
I did watch. It was a whole like talking about vampires in modern cinema now because Nosferatu's all the rage, which is excellent. And like seriously talking about Twilight being a major player in like modern vampire scene, and you're like, damn it, it is. You got to talk about it.
It is.
You gotta.
I mean,
You have to.
and it's amazing how like wildly influential it was on so many different things,
Right.
Just culturally. Like not only how much literature is literally connected to it, but I actually found out that one of, and going deep nerd for a second, one of Magic the Gathering's favorite places that they visited in the world is a gothic horror plane. And when they were pitching it to the R&D team, one of the things they said was like, Twilight's pretty popular now.
Hey.
And it was like, it's like, oh, like even it goes so deep into our cultural roots between like music and books and now romance novels. Although I guess people have moved on to hockey players, I hear now.
Oh my gosh! Don't even get me started.
Apparently, hockey player romance is the big one now.
Hockey player romances are huge.
I don't know what
Huge right
cultural
now.
footprint that will leave, but
I mean, think about how big of
Reverse
a
harem. Let me tell you, that's what it is. It's reverse harem.
Think about how much it's a word. It's just Twilight.
Michael.
Like it's a common word. Michael, we'll get it. I'll get you out of here.
No,
It's such a common word, but because it's in our cultural zeitgeist, like you can't say Twilight and not have most people think vampires.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like
Right.
you can't say Marvel without like people assuming that you're not using the word as its regular, like, oh yeah, I'm marveled at something. Like they're gonna assume it's superhero related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't hear I can't hear worm in any
Without-
context.
Oh yeah,
Without he's assuming,
Yeah.
Parahumans by wild bow worm.
Yep.
That
And
happens.
soon the rest of the universe will.
I can't
have
hear
the
Shape of
same-
Water without thinking of sexy fish. Like it's just kind of
I
ingrained
mean,
in the mind, you know.
It's for me. It's the phrase "let it go" has been ruined.
Oh
I think.
no!
See, I just ruined it for all of you too.
Look, it's not ruined exactly. It's just cemented in my mind a specific way.
Shall we put a bow on this episode?
Please.
Put a bow
Yes,
on
Bob.
this season.
Put a bow on the season.
We
Put a
are
bow on the series.
The
We
show.
are done
Yeah.
on the show.
There's no more dissecting worm after this. It
No
would
more
just
Dissecting
be,
Oh my
Worm.
gosh, just
The
book
final
club
dissection is what I
content.
named this room that we're in right now. Recording this.
final
Which,
dissection.
just to clarify,
Well,
it's because only Allan has read Ward, so we can't exactly dissect that which we have not read. So it'd be a little hard. But
Mhm.
who knows?
oh, trust
Maybe
me,
in the
there's
future.
tons to fix.
Yeah, maybe in the
Tons to
future,
fix.
down the line, we'll come back to it.
Honestly, our book
Yeah.
club could probably talk a little bit just about shoring some
Just-
writing up.
Yeah. Anyway,
Sure.
all that
get
to
there.
say, this has been such a fun project. We've all had a blast. I know I can speak for the whole group here when I say that. It's been an absolute delight. We have loved reading all the comments and inputs and critiques and praises and ideas and storyboarding and all this kind of stuff has been so much fun. I know off podcast, Allan and I will probably continue to talk about adapting Worm in many forms for a while. And who knows, maybe if you're a patron, you might get some bonus dissecting content in the future. I can't promise it, but I can't not promise it. You never know. It's just
Patrons
we'll
get a lot of
yeah.
special
We'll
things. We
get a lot
can't
of special
guarantee
things.
what
Yeah.
that might
Yeah.
be. You know,
If you have enjoyed listening to us and you've listened to us for this long, consider joining the Patreon. Bunch of different tiers starting at just $1. We got merch. We got bonus content. We have a lot of really fun ideas for Beyond Worm here as we move into other Wild Bow stories and sequels and other things. So stay tuned for the patrons. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks so much to Michael for putting this all together, making us sound good, making us look all nice and pretty. And to Nick and Hannah for joining us in these special recaps. It's always fun to hear you guys,
Absolutely.
your guys' inputs and ideas. And with that, I think we'll give one final to all of you. You all you bunch of worms. So you take that, you worms.
Hey. Thank you so much for listening. Read along with us at parahumans.wordpress.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you love? What did you hate? Anything you think we missed, etc., as long as it's kind. If you'd like to get in touch, you can find us on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and Reddit at Brocktonbaybc, or click the link in the description.